What's up, everybody? Adam, your boy, aka Juicy Flow, aka Smooth Flex, back here to explain why mental illness does not come from, or does not originate in your biology or your uh, biochemistry, but originates somewhere here. This guy, over here, in your thoughts. Whether they might be your thoughts, or you might not identify with those thoughts, but essentially, Freud was right. It's an infectious disease. It is still a disease. It's still very real, but it's not the same kind of disease that maybe originates here, somewhere here. Now, that's not to say that neurological issues cannot cause psychological issues. Of course they can. And, you can have genetically caused or caused by damage, very real neurological issues that start somewhere around here or somewhere in this area or maybe around here. But those are neurological issues. They are not psychological issues. They might have psychological repercussions, but you can say that about anything. You can say that about diabetes. You can say that about blood pressure. You can say that about side effects of big pharma or marijuana or tequila. Those all, it's not to say that you can't change your psychological, your perception through biochemical alterations. Obviously, anyone who's ever drunk or smoked or taken pills knows that's certainly the case. I'm sorry, I'm speeding, or I'm trying to speed, because I don't know at what point I'm going to lose your attention. Attention spans are getting very short these days. But essentially, what the latest literature in neuroscience research on serotonin as a moderator and mediator between other the lower neurochemicals is that here the genes are, it basically takes, it's starting to lean more towards epigenetics, where the genes are unlocked, the gene expression. So that you have the genes, which are the codes, but what they manifest into becomes unlocked by your environment, by your surroundings, by your experiences. But it also becomes unlocked by this. This is another mediating factor. If you want to call it the PFC, the prefrontal cortex over here, if that's how you want to compartmentalize it or operationalize it. This area here basically mediates everything that's going on below it in terms of your neurochemical processes and your gene reactions. So there's kind of a top-down and a bottom-up effect. It's reciprocal. We don't actually know if it's going down from here or coming up, but it's a reciprocal relationship going down into the lower, into the lower process, the deeper neurological processes, or coming up from those processes. But basically, you have interactions with your environment. Your genes are partly unlocked by the environment, partly unlocked by time. Time can also, so time plus environment plus this. So time plus NV plus PFC. So if you want to simplify down to that, but that basically just unlocks the expression of the gene. The gene is there, the code is there, but it expresses differently based off of this formula. And maybe this formula, but I don't actually remember why I put this here. This is the theory of relativity for any of you physicists. That's not really relevant here. Or is it relative? Haha, just kidding. And basically, so this largely determines the neurochemical at the connections between the neurons. This intraneuronal exchanges, exchanges of your electrolytes, your potassium, your sodium, your magnesium. That basically, allows your neurons to communicate. That's what they use to communicate. That and ATP and glycogen sort of determines this. This is your neuronal excitement. So it determines the shape that this takes, how long it takes to recover, all these things. All largely determined by this, which is largely determined by this formula here, okay? And essentially, this part, because the researchers can't determine what's mediating the serotonin system that moderates the rest of the neurochemicals. And there's not enough evidence to conclude that it comes from this or this or this or this. But you had Freud a couple hundred years ago who concluded that it was this, because he said ideas are infectious. And in psychology, you're not going to read much about them, especially in universities, because it doesn't fund this. So it's out, because these guys pay a lot to universities, they pay a lot to your doctors, they pay a lot to the government in lobbying, they spend a lot of energy and time lobbying, they spend a lot of time putting people out of their business and getting people canceled if they come up with non-solutions, non-pharmacological solutions to chronic illnesses. These guys also make a lot of money that cause a lot of illness, not really this, but this, cause a lot of illnesses. This not so much, but kind of just sedates people, so that's good too. Keeps people from revolting and starting a revolution against a tyrannical government. So these don't really help any industry, especially these guys who are very powerful. It's kind of scary, terrifyingly powerful. And if you don't agree with that, then you don't know anything about health insurance. Sorry to say. But basically, Freud said, ideas are infectious, and there's not enough evidence to rule this out. And there's not enough evidence to conclude that these two are all that's there. But there is a plethora of evidence to support this, you mediating your internal neurochemical situation. Because there was a guy a few hundred years back, he was a pharmacist back in like the cowboy era, and he was basically found that, hey, if you give someone a pill, it doesn't matter what the pill has in it, and you tell them it's going to solve their problem and they believe it, it has a high chance of solving their problem. And if you tell them it's not going to solve the problem and they believe that, it has a high chance of not solving their problem. And there's tons and tons and tons of evidence to support the placebo effect. And I've been talking about it for many, many years. And, I'm just a double PhD doctorate student in performance psychology and international clinical psychology. So no one needs to listen to me because I don't have any clout. I'm not Drake or Elon Musk. So I don't have any clout. But this has way more evidence to support that it moderates this than the other way around. But this is what you're going to learn about in school, is what you're taught in mainstream media. So what the news is going to tell you is the primary moderating factor of how you feel and mental illness. Because if you knew this, you wouldn't pay so much for these. And that doesn't make government and very powerful lobbying organizations and fields and industries, that doesn't make them happy. So that's why they have to have you believe that this is not real, even though there's too much evidence to support it, and all you have is these. And that's basically my case for how I concluded that mental illness are not fully originated from biochemical sources, but are highly supported by Freud's case made hundreds of years ago. He's been ruled out by the feminists who called him a misogynist, so none of his ideas are accurate anymore. But there's more evidence to support this than there is to support this in the case of mental illness. And thank you for watching my lecture on origins of mental illness. I believe in free will. I believe there's evidence for free will, and I might go deeper into that in a future video if you guys are interested. Thank you very much. I've been Adam.b. Take care. God bless.